Okay, today we're going to demonstrate how to build the EM-A7 All of the tubular frames are numbered, and there are elastic bands holding the tubular frame together. It's bungee corded, and there are numbers that correspond to each one. It's a push pin system. Push in, lock, twist and lock. Push the pin in, twist and lock. And you continue to do the entire frame in the same way. The corners. Notice the numbers match. 15 matches with 15 and locks. The frames are then one half is put over the next to create the back frame. Okay. The main back fabric is then unzippered. Now there are two fabrics. One is for the entire back, and then the smaller would be for the front of the counter. Basically, you're going to unzipper, pull the frame down, again, notice starting from the top, number 1 and 2. Number 1 and 2 would be the top of the frame. And notice how it is positioned to the front, where the logo is on the front side. And then the frame, it is a little stiff because it's a tension fabric system, so we actually need to pull down together. So normally we pull down in unison at the same time in order to have the frame and the fabric take shape. And the logo will remain on the top. Notice the part to the bottom here. Then, of course, the bottom part is then pulled around the corners and then zippered. So we continue zipping to the bottom. It is a little tight, it's under a lot of tension, and then 2 zips meet in the center. Then we place the actual backdrop onto the actual something on the floor to protect so that it does not get dirty. So we use the piece of fabric. This now is the actual base and tabletops that can be constructed for the frame. Notice we actually have the push pins, and then there's some, there you go, then there's some screw types to the bottom. So we basically screw these onto the base plate. Making sure they're firm. Right, there's a cutout for the tubular frames, and that will go on the shorter, the narrower of the two, and then remain flat on the base plate. Then we have the uprights. The uprights are there are 2 uprights. The first one would be for the screen, the second will be for the counter. So the one that says 17 and 18 would be for the counter, and it's basically slotted in. Then the actual backdrop itself, there are 2 holes, center holes, would be used to slot the actual unit in. So how it's done, it's actually angled from the back. So it goes in, there's a little slot to the bottom that causes it to line up. And then there are 2 rods. This is positioned in the back. And now the top section, hole in the back, the part with the holes in the front come to the front, and of course it's inserted in the tubular frame from the back. This is going to slot into the back side. The 2 poles would now be placed to the front. Again, notice the push pins. Again, they can be tightened by twisting. And in the other clear bag, in the Ziploc bag, they're actually the shelf brackets and 2 black screws. Actually, it's supposed to be 4, actually, my mistake. 4 screws. The twist screws are placed onto the actual frame. This is the shelf bracket that we're screwing onto the tubular frame. And again, it's just hand tightened. Then we have the front skin. This is for the front of the counter. It's just, you slide it over the 2 tubular frames till it goes to the bottom. The countertop has pre-drilled holes, the narrow holes to the back, and of course the exposed to the front. In the clear bag, there would be two screws for the front that uses an Allen key that is supplied. The Allen key, it's an extended Allen key that can be used to tighten. And then the screw is screwed in from underneath to attach the countertop from the bottom. Again, it has to be positioned where the hole lines up with exactly the counter. There you go. The hole is then aligned with the counter. And the last part would be the installation of the bracket. Of course, the bracket would go on. There are 4 bolts, or this is the main part to attach the bracket to the actual back. So you're attaching the main thread bolt to the back of the frame. So the first thing is that you support the back and then place the threaded bracket to align to the actual tubular frame. These are actually cut out in the fabric, but it has to align with the tubular frame. And then, of course, there's the Allen key that will just be used to kind of attach it to the back. And again, someone needs to put some tension to the back so that that is attached properly. So it's very important to make sure that the bolt actually threads onto the actual tubular frame before you tighten. So this will thread into the tubular frame. You can actually pull the fabric over to expose the threading, the threaded bolt, and then you just, the threaded opening, and then you just basically screw it in with the Allen key. Now you can either use to attach the frame, there are 4 bolts with washers that we use. Now, we can either use a standard Phillips number 2 screwdriver or an actual screw gun, as we have here. But again, a Phillips number 2 would work fine. Notice the supplied level that's onto the frame, just to make sure that the frame, the bracket itself is leveled. And again, notice our water level is even. And then, basically, that concludes our entire framework. for the actual backdrop. The next video would showcase the actual brackets attached to the screen.